Hi, everyone. Welcome to ElCo Chats. My name is Julieta. ElCo Chats is a regular podcast where we feature El Camino College graduates, students, staff, faculty, and managers, and share with you things that we have here at El Camino College. And today, I'm very excited and happy to chat with Sidney.
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Sidney. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome. I'm doing great. So we have a lot to talk about today, which really pertains to students who are new and are coming to El Camino, and what are those things that they need to prepare. But first, tell me about yourself. How did you decide on enrolling at El Camino College? What's your major? What are your goals? And what are your next steps?
Yeah, so when I was still a senior in high school, I was getting ready to join El Camino. And really, there was only one option for me, and that was El Camino. I come from a family of community college students and products of community college. So I have two older sisters. They both went to community college. And one of the main reasons why I decided for myself that I wanted to attend El Camino was financial reasons. You know, it's really expensive to send 3 children to a 4-year institution straight off the bat. And so through programs like South Bay Promise, that paid for the first 2 years of my tuition at El Camino, and my sisters as well, we were able to cut the cost of 12 years of tuition into 6 years of tuition. And yeah, my major is pre-engineering at El Camino. And then some of my short-term goals, at least for this year, is just to transfer. I hope to transfer as a civil engineering major and really get my tag going, and then also become more involved on campus, focusing on STEM. So I want to join some clubs, which I'll be able to do in Club Rush. So I'm excited for that.
Excited for you. Lots going on with you. And you're also a student ambassador. So tell me a little bit about what does it mean to be a student ambassador?
Yeah, a student ambassador is kind of all types of things, but the main purpose is just to be helpful to students and to help El Camino students, or maybe prospective students as well. So you'll see us at the info desk. We'll also be giving tours, but I have people come up and ask me all types of things, whether it's how do I submit an assignment on Canvas, or it's where do I find a building? How do I get involved? All these things. So whatever question that students have, they can always come to ambassadors.
Glad that you're here to help our students. And so now that you shared with me that as an ambassador, you do help prospective students and informing them about educational opportunities at El Camino College, you also help to break down the path to enroll, which is enrolling, right? What is the path to enroll? And tell me a little bit about that, and we'll probably break down some of those steps.
Mm-hmm. So the path to enroll is some steps that you can take. It's a process that gets you fully enrolled at El Camino, meaning you complete all of the steps, and at the end of it, you're registered for your classes and you're ready to start your first day. So that includes a whole list of things that you can take at different steps, or you can rearrange the order of the steps as well. There's no set way that you have to do things. You kind of do things that make sense for you and your journey. Yeah, that's really what it is.
And so let's break down some of those steps. And I like that you said that you don't have to do them in the order that they maybe are listed in our website. It may differ for some students, really depending on their educational goal and where they've been as well. It starts with the application, right? The admissions application. But once you complete the admissions application, what do most students complete as their next step?
So on our, what we advertise is financial aid. That's next, but you don't have to. Financial aid is optional, but we do recommend it, whether that be the FAFSA or the California Dream Act. For those that aren't familiar with the difference between the two, generally we have FAFSA for U.S. citizens, and then the California Dream Act for non-residents or non-citizens. And just because you're not a resident, or regardless of your status, you can always take classes at El Camino. It really doesn't harm you in any way. So we recommend that you just complete the form that's appropriate for you.
And I think on our El Camino College website, financial aid website, there's a helpful list that will help students to determine which application to fill out. So I'm glad that that's available. And I think one thing that I want to mention, since you brought up financial aid as one of the first steps, is a lot of students tend to say, oh, I'm not eligible, so I'm just not going to apply. What can you say about that?
I mean, you don't know until you try, and you never know. I mean, there's a lot of times where, like, my friends will say, oh, like, it's fine. Like, I can just figure out a way to pay this on my own. I don't want to have to go through the whole paperwork of filling out the financial aid forms. But once they do, like, if I convince them to do it and they do it, then sometimes they get surprised by the money that they received, and they're so grateful for it. So it doesn't hurt you to just submit that form in. I think that's the other thing. Some people think that they have to save up their financial aid, and you don't, and you shouldn't. You should just apply when you need to attend college.
And maybe visit the financial aid office. And we do have a lab, right, where students can walk in and receive assistance in completing the forms and ultimately following up. So thank you for the financial aid information. What next step do you recommend students complete?
Yeah, so after you apply for, like, submit the general application and you receive your El Camino email and student ID, that gives you access to log into My ECC. So from there, you can take the English and Math Placement Survey. It's also called the Assessment Survey, so they're the same thing. It's about a 15 to 20-minute survey. You just kind of tell us, El Camino, what math classes you've taken and your grade, and what English class you've taken and your grade, and it places you based off of that information. We used to do it where it was like a 2-hour long test, and it was just so daunting, and it wasn't a good scale of what students were actually capable of. So now when we switch to this survey, it's much easier for students.
And I think, too, it sounds like the survey is letting us know what you've done, where you've been. But there's another component with the survey that I think really supplements the determination of what entry-level classes you're starting with, right?
Yeah.
What's that step?
Actually, I'm not familiar. Can you?
The educational planning, right?
Oh, I got you. Okay. Yeah, the educational planning. So that's just speaking with a counselor. And when you speak with a counselor, they are able to look back on your results from that placement test and then place you or recommend you to what classes that you should be taking when you start El Camino. For most people, it's English 1A and like maybe Math 150 or something like that. But speaking with an educational counselor is really going to help you map out your entire semester or even your entire career at El Camino. And I get this a lot. It's like people have this idea that if you're at a community college, you're wasting time or you're here for maybe 5-6 years. I'm pretty sure that like 90% of the students that are experiencing this are not meeting with a counselor regularly. So it's really important that educational planning step is really important that you keep up with, not just do it once, but once you're about to graduate, once you're about to start a new semester, you go back and you check just to make sure that everything's in line.
And I'm glad you said that, because the path to enroll are really steps that you take when you're entering El Camino College for the first time. But that educational planning piece is something that you really want to do on a regular basis. And how soon before you actually start taking classes at El Camino College can the path to enroll, can students start or complete the path to enroll? And we're not done yet. There's another step in there. But how soon do students start completing these steps?
So I started completing these steps or even just start looking at the application the semester before I wanted to join. So I joined in the fall. I was starting these steps in early spring. And that could just be as simple as like completing the application and then waiting maybe like a couple months. You know, it doesn't have to be, these steps don't have to happen right after each other. You have some leeway between it, especially if you start early. Now, if you like wait until the last minute and now all of a sudden you have to cram everything in a week, then it gets really difficult. But if you start early, maybe a semester before you want to actually start your classes, then it's much more manageable.
I think that's some good advice to start early, because life happens, right? And we don't know, what's going on around us. So if we take care of these steps in advance, then when it's time to actually start the semester, you're all set. You have your ed plan, you've done your survey, you know what classes you need to take, and you're able to start on time. There is one step or a couple of steps that we still haven't talked about just yet. I think one of my favorite steps in this whole process, although it could be financial aid because that's what helps you get paid, right? Or ensure that you have the right resources to pay for your classes. Orientation. Tell me a little bit about orientation. Why is that important? And how can students go about completing a new student orientation?
Yeah, the new student orientation you can find on our website. You can do it like online and watch a series of videos, or you can sign up for it on that new student welcome page, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry. That's actually just the new student orientation page. And there's you can click the link and book yourself an orientation to attend in person at the Warrior Welcome Center. And of course, you can always attend or like go in person to the Warrior Welcome Center and have them help you fill out that, book an appointment for that orientation.
For the orientation. Now, what do you think? Do you think students should complete the orientation that's available online or maybe complete the one in person? What do you think?
I like the one in person personally. It's really easy to just kind of like tune out videos. So when you're in person, you're kind of in the right environment to absorb all the information that's being thrown at you. And it's a lot, it's going to go through like your rights as a student. It's going to go through different resources that are available to you as an El Camino student, basic needs, all of that. And it's a lot to take in when you're when you're just starting college. So I say give yourself the best opportunity to understand and absorb that information and go in person.
And I think there's a handbook that they provide to you both online. If you complete the orientation online or in person, they actually send you away with a book of resources. So I think another benefit of maybe attending the orientation in person is you walk away with an actual handbook and just a wealth of resources. And I think, too, there's one other benefit from doing these orientations in person is that you might be completing an orientation and who knows, the person that you have a class or two with ends up being in the same room as you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you can. That's the other thing as well. If you're doing in-person services for anything, you get that like one-on-one connection and you're just in close proximity to people to your peers. Like these are people that you're going to be seeing again. El Camino might seem big when you first start, but once you start attending classes, you realize that the circle is actually pretty small. Yeah, and the community is very tight.
Perfect. It's a really small communities based on your educational goals and your major for the most part. So now we've completed the application. We've applied for financial aid. We completed the new student orientation. We might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed, but we did the survey online. We talked with the counselor and the counselor said, hey, Sidney, here's your educational plan. These are the classes that I recommend based on your goal. These are the classes that I recommend for you for the next semester. The next step.
Then you go to register. This is your last step. You can either do it on your own and, go online to My ECC and click that register button. Or you can go in person to the Warrior Welcome Center to get some help. So it's difficult. There's a lot of buttons to click, and sometimes you don't know if maybe you've added it to your schedule, but you haven't registered completely. And just as like a double check, just to make sure everything is going the way that it should be, you can always ask either an ambassador or somebody at the Warrior Welcome Center just to make sure that you are fully registered.
It sounds like the Warrior Welcome Center is a place to go for lots of questions and lots of help. So I'm happy to hear that we do have that resource for students. And registering for classes is kind of like shopping online, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You kind of like pick your classes. So there's a lot of professors actually that will teach the same class, but different section numbers. And I get the question a lot too, which one do I pick? And there's several resources that you can use. The first one is obviously like outside, like external websites like Rate My Professor, or we actually have an internal website as well. It's on the El Camino website under Institutional Research and Planning. El Camino has a spreadsheet of all the classes that we offer each semester, and it breaks down the success and the retention rates for each professor. So if you really want a non-biased resource to help you pick your professor when you're registering for these classes, I say that's the one to go to.
institutional research does provide a lot of resources and information. So thank you for sharing that. So we've registered for classes. And I think the key here is that I think students, we need to remind students that there's the one thing that they need to have with them when they're registering, and that's the educational plan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's best if you like run it by a counselor. Just so, I mean, you can register for classes that are not on your educational plan, but it's not advised, just because if you want to complete your goal within a certain time frame, then really you should be following the plan mapped out by your counselor.
Absolutely. So now you've registered for classes and your financial aid has come in, you've completed all of the steps, which it sounds like a lot of steps. But again, if we get a head start early, then we have some time to take care of each step, one at a time. And there is a helpful place like the Warrior Welcome Center where students can jump in and stop by and receive assistance in completing these steps. What are those steps that students might take after they've registered for classes? So what are those other couple of things that they should take care of?
Yeah, so first one is that photo ID. Right now, the way that we're doing it is you just scan a QR code, or you can find the online form on our website, and you upload your own photo. You submit it, wait a couple days, and then pick up your physical ID at the Warrior Welcome Center. And am I missing one? I think
Well, there's something that you need in your classes, right?
Oh, your textbooks. Yes. You do need your textbooks. So you can always go to the bookstore. And even if you haven't received like your syllabus, they'll have a list of the classes and their section number as well, and the textbook that your professor uses. So that's really helpful. If you forget your syllabus at home or you just can't seem to pull it up, they'll be able to help you at the bookstore even without that.
And I think your one resource when you are at the bookstore is the classes that you're actually enrolled in. And I think students should know that their schedule of classes, my class schedule, is available in their My ECC. So if they take a screenshot, if they print it, they can walk over to the bookstore, or they can go to the bookstore online and check out and see what are those books that they might need. So very important to have those books right when the semester starts. And we do have resources. Aside from financial aid, we have other programs that help students purchase some of those textbooks if they need it, and because it can get expensive. You talked a little bit about My ECC, but we didn't really talk too much about what it is. So can you just describe briefly what is My ECC?
Yeah, so My ECC is El Camino's student portal. So you can pay for your classes on the portal. It's right on the left-hand side. It's, I think, financial payments. But you can make your payments online, or you can go in person at the cashier's office if you really want to go in person. But going back to My ECC, you can register for your classes there. You can get your unofficial transcript. Of course, take that English and math placement survey. And that last thing that's really important is looking at your degree planner, which is your educational plan that your counselor has mapped up for you. There's a link that lets you see directly which classes your counselor has listed out for each semester that they have advised you for. And a lot of people think that they have to memorize it once their counselor tells you, but they can always reference it whenever they want if they just go onto My ECC.
That's a good point. It's like all of your information in one place. I go back to go ahead and access your educational plan, take a screenshot, and that way you have it in your phone or print it if you are okay with printing it. So thank you for describing a little bit more about My ECC and what kind of resource that is. With this being your last year at El Camino College, what are you look forward to the most in this year?
I think probably spending time with my family before I transfer. The good thing about community college is, for me, I'm still living with my parents and I'm very close to my home. So it's just absorbing all of that and spending time with my loved ones before I have to move away for college, which is exciting, but also a little bit scary.
And you're still an ambassador, so you'll still be helping a ton of students throughout the year as we prepare for the future semesters. And so I think our prospective students are very lucky to have somebody like you who can help them along their path to enroll and just getting informed about El Camino College. So thank you for providing that for us.
Thank you.
Now, finally, what kind of advice do you have for people who are thinking about applying to El Camino College?
I'd say ask for help when you need it, and like don't be afraid to help or don't be afraid to ask for help, because everyone here really wants you to succeed. And that's something that's like the one big takeaway that I've gained after like 3 years, starting my 3rd year here. Everybody, like the counselors, staff, your professors as well. I used to be really scared of like maybe taking harder level classes, because I was like, oh, these professors don't care. They just want to, I don't know. So many people fail their class and all of this, but they want to help you. And it's not their fault that the material is challenging, but they're going to do their best to help you succeed. And I don't think enough students realize that.
I thank you for saying that, because I think you're absolutely right. Whoever we are, those of us who work at El Camino College, whether we're student ambassadors or whether we work in marketing or we work at the library or we're a professor, we're the president of the college.
Yeah.
We all want to see our students succeed. That path to enroll can be a little bit overwhelming, but I'm very glad, and I hope, our listeners do listen when we say, go to the Warrior Welcome Center. And what you shared, ask for help. It's very important that students complete that financial aid application, that they complete that new student orientation, whether that's online or whether it's in person. Hey, you might have completed it online and you realize, oh, you know what? I think I might go to the in-person one instead. So it is important that students meet with the counselor for the educational planning and that they get the assistance to register for their classes, and that this is done when? How soon?
I would say before, if you can, the semester before, but the deadline that if you want to start in the fall, the deadline that you're really looking at is April 30th. That's a stable deadline. So every single year, the deadline that you're looking for is April 30th for priority registration. And that's one thing that I forgot to mention. So thank you for kind of bringing that up. Priority registration is so important because there's so many students at El Camino, and getting the classes that you want, the professors that you want, that makes a world of a difference in terms of what your experience is going to look like, whether you have a good classroom experience or a bad one. So you really want to try to complete all of these steps before April 30th if you're planning to start classes in the fall.
And I've seen it happen. Somebody will apply 2 weeks before the semester begins, and on that first day of school, they've already completed all of the steps and they're ready to go. They enroll in their classes and they are successful. So yes, try to do this early, but we know things happen and life happens, and you can still do this and be prepared and be successful at El Camino College. So thank you so much for joining me and talking about the path to enroll.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.